156 seconds, 2 minutes and 36 seconds. The new record. Thomas Massie stood up, held a Government Accountability Office report above his head, and asked the question that would create the longest silence in congressional hearing history. Mr. Miller, this GAO audit shows $2.8 billion allocated to Department of Homeland Security modernization initiatives in fiscal year 2024. The funds were dispersed, the projects were marked complete in federal databases, but the infrastructure does not exist. So I have a very simple question for you. Where is $2.8 billion? Miller's face went pale, not flushed, not red, pale, like blood actively draining in real time. His lead attorney grabbed his shoulder. His second attorney was already standing, but it was too late. The audit report was on every screen in the room, and Massie had not even started counting yet. House Oversight Committee, room 2154, Wednesday afternoon, 2:47 p.m. Eastern. The hearing was listed as routine oversight of Department of Homeland Security technology spending. Routine, that word keeps appearing in these hearing titles, and it keeps being completely wrong. Massie arrived early 50 minutes before the session started. He had a locked aluminum case, same one from the border wall hearing. Security recognized it immediately. They waved him through without scanning. They knew what was coming. Miller did not. Miller walked in with his standard entourage. 3 attorneys, 2 senior aides, that practice confidence he always carries into these rooms. Chin up, shoulders back. The "I have done this 100 times" posture. He sat down, adjusted his microphone, looked almost bored during the opening statements. He had his prepared remarks ready. He had his talking points memorized. He thought he knew every question they would ask. He was wrong. The first 40 minutes were exactly what everyone expected. Budget allocations, technology procurement timelines, vendor selection processes. Miller gave smooth answers, professional, controlled. He even smiled once, a small, tight smile, but a smile. He was comfortable. Then Massie took the microphone and said 6 words that changed everything. "Mr. Miller, let's talk about infrastructure." The room shifted. Infrastructure, not policy, not strategy. Infrastructure, the physical systems. Massie opened the aluminum case, pulled out a thick binder Government Accountability Office seal on the cover. He set it on the table with a sound loud enough for the microphones to catch. This is a forensic audit conducted by the Government Accountability Office. It was completed 4 weeks ago. It covers fiscal year 2024 DHS technology modernization expenditures, specifically data center construction and network infrastructure deployment. He opened it. According to DHS contracts, $2.8 billion was allocated for modernization projects across 47 facilities. The contracts were awarded, the funds were dispersed, the work was marked complete in the federal procurement database. He looked up, but the infrastructure is not there. A murmur started in the gallery. Massie continued. The GAO sent inspectors to every facility listed in the completion reports. All 47 locations. They conducted physical inspections. They reviewed equipment manifests. They interviewed site managers. He pulled out a photo, held it up. This is what they found at the Atlanta data center. $340 million project marked complete. The photo showed an empty server room. No racks, no equipment, no cabling infrastructure, nothing. Just an empty room with concrete floors. He set it down. $2.8 billion. Certified complete. Infrastructure does not exist. Where is the money, Mr. Miller? Miller leaned forward. Congressman, technology projects of this scale involve complex phasing and deployment protocols. The completion certifications may reflect administrative milestones rather than physical installation timelines and their established verification procedures. That Massie cut him off. I am going to stop you right there because the GAO thought you might say that. So they did something very thorough. They pulled the equipment delivery manifests. He opened the document. Every piece of server equipment delivered to a federal facility has to be logged with a delivery confirmation federal requirement. Delivery date, equipment serial numbers, receiving signature, facility location. The GAO obtained all delivery manifests for the 47 facility modernization project. He paused. Mr. Miller, according to these manifests, 12,847 server units were delivered to DHS facilities between March and December of last year. He set the paper down. 12,847 server units at an average cost of $217,000 per configured unit for the specialized government equipment. That is $2.8 billion. The math checks out. The deliveries are documented. The contractors were paid. He looked at Miller. So where are the servers? Now, I need to stop for a second and say this. If you believe $2.8 billion of taxpayer money deserves an explanation, share this video right now. Hit that like button, turn on notifications, because what Massie shows next proves the equipment was never installed at any federal facility. Miller's attorney tried to interrupt. Mr. Chairman, these allegations are based on incomplete data, and my client should not be expected to account for every granular detail of multi-billion-dollar technology deployment across dozens of facilities without proper review time and access to. The data is not incomplete. Massie did not even look at the attorney. It is comprehensive. 18-month investigation, 94 site visits, 47 facilities inspected, 2,300 photographs, 400 interviews with contractors and facility managers, and 0 functional data centers. He pulled out the next section of the audit. But here is where it gets interesting. The GAO did not just look at delivery manifests. They subpoenaed the equipment manufacturer records. Every server unit manufactured for federal contracts has a unique serial number, configuration specification, and destination code tracked from factory to installation. He opened to a flag page. Of the 12,847 server units documented in delivery manifests, only 4,921 units appear in the manufacturer production records. The room went silent. Massie let that number sit. Only 4,921 units were actually manufactured, but 12,847 units were logged as delivered. That is a discrepancy of 7,926 units. He did the math out loud at $217,000 per unit. That is $1.7 billion paid for equipment that was never made. He looked at Miller. So let me refine my question. Where is $1.7 billion that was paid for servers that do not exist? Miller opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His lead attorney whispered something urgent. Miller shook his head. Number. And that is when the silence started. Massie looked at his watch, pulled out his phone, opened the stopwatch app, held it up so the room could see. I am going to ask you one more time, Mr. Miller, and I am going to time how long you sit here without answering. Where is $2.8 billion allocated for technology modernization that shows certified complete, but the infrastructure does not exist? He pressed start on the stopwatch. The room was completely still. You could hear the ventilation system. You could hear someone shifting in their seat 4 rows back. You could hear Miller swallowing. 10 seconds. Miller's hands flat on the table. Knuckles starting to turn white. 20 seconds. His attorney writing something on a legal pad, underlining it 3 times. 0.30 seconds. A journalist in the press section dropped a pen. It clattered. Everyone jumped. 40 seconds. The committee chairman leaned into his microphone. Mr. Miller, you are under oath. Answer the question. Miller's jaw moved. No sound. 50 seconds. His second attorney stood up. Mr. Chairman, we request a brief recess to consult with our client regarding the technical complexity of. Denied. The chairman's voice was firm. The witness will answer. Now, 60 seconds. 1 full minute. Massie's stopwatch was on every screen in the room now. The cameras had zoomed in on it. 70 seconds. A congressman from Kentucky, Republican, leaned into his microphone. Steve, just answer the question. Where did the money go? Miller looked at him, looked away. 80 seconds. Massie stood up, still holding the stopwatch. Mr. Miller, we are now at 1 minute and 20 seconds. This is a simple question, not about policy, not about strategy, about physical location, $2.8 billion. Where is it? 90 seconds. Miller's face had gone from pale to gray, that muscle near his jaw twitching visibly. 1 minute and 30 seconds. Zone 100 seconds. His lead attorney stood, tried to speak. The chairman pointed at him. Sit down. Counselor, your client has a mouth. He can use it. 110 seconds. Massie walked closer to the witness table. Not aggressive, just closer. Mr. Miller, we are approaching 2 minutes. 2 minutes of silence rather than tell the American people where $2.8 billion went. 120 seconds, 2 full minutes. The room was so quiet you could hear the clock on the wall ticking. Someone coughed in the back. It echoed. 130 seconds, Miller's hands trembled slightly. He pressed them harder against the table to stop it. The cameras caught it. Everyone saw 140 seconds. Massie stopped walking, stood directly in front of Miller. "Mr. Miller, I am going to count to 156, and then I am going to enter every page of this audit into the congressional record. And your silence will be noted in that record. Permanent, public, forever. 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 150, 155, 156. He pressed stop on the stopwatch, held it up 2 minutes and 36 seconds. He turned to the committee. "Mr. Chairman, the witness has refused to answer. I move to enter the complete Gao audit, all 1247 pages, into the congressional record. I further move to refer this matter to the Department of Justice for criminal investigation into potential fraud, embezzlement, misappropriation of federal funds, and false claims." The motion was seconded. Immediately the vote was called. It passed unanimously. Massie gathered his documents. "Mr. Miller," he said quietly, almost sadly, 156 seconds. "That is how long you sat here, rather than explain where $2.8 billion went. That silence tells me everything I need to know, and it tells the American people everything they need to know." He stepped back from the witness table. "These documents are now public. Every delivery manifest, every manufacturer record, every photograph of empty data centers, where equipment should be, every dollar that cannot be accounted for. All of it public permanent." He looked at the cameras, to the contractors who were paid for equipment they never delivered, to the facility managers who signed off on installations that never happened. To anyone who participated in what this audit reveals, the FBI has this report. The Gao has referred this to Treasury's Financial Crimes Division, and they are very good at following money trails. He turned back to Miller one last time. "You had 156 seconds to explain. You chose silence. That choice will follow you." The hearing did not continue. "Not really," the chairman called a recess. Miller's attorney surrounded him immediately. Cameras swarmed, journalists were shouting questions, security had to clear a path. But it did not matter because in 2 minutes and 36 seconds, Thomas Massie had done what seemed impossible. He had found something bigger than the border wall scandal. He had documented $2.8 billion paid for technology infrastructure that does not exist. And he had forced Stephen Miller to sit in complete silence, rather than explain where the money went. Within minutes, the internet erupted. Massie 156, trending worldwide. News networks cutting to emergency coverage. Technology experts analyzing the equipment discrepancy. Fraud investigators discussing the criminal implications. And somewhere, every contractor who signed a false delivery manifest was probably calling a lawyer right now. This is not speculation. This is a Government Accountability Office audit. 1247 pages, 2,300 photographs, 400 interviews, 7926 server units paid for, but never manufactured, $2.8 billion certified complete for infrastructure that does not exist, and 156 seconds where Stephen Miller could have explained it, but chose silence. Instead, subscribe right now because tomorrow, we release the contractor names from the Gao audit. Every company, every false delivery manifest, every dollar they were paid. This investigation is not over. It is just beginning.